Hello, everyone. Welcome into Simply Life. I'm Keith Casebolt, and as always, across from me, my dear friend, Gary C. Johnson. And it is so good to see you, friend.
Trust me, it is wonderful to be seen. It don't get no better than to be seen.
Oh,
How you folks doing out there?
Even if it's 6 feet away, right?
That's exactly right. Absolutely, my friends. Isn't this wonderful, wonderful to be alive? And one other thing. Monday is Memorial Day.
Mm-hmm.
So remember, my friends, the veterans, remember your loved ones. Remember how good we've got it still in this country. And try your best, my friends, to the extent you possibly can, be happy.
Gary, I'm glad you mentioned Memorial Day, because whether we like the way things are going or whether we dislike the way things are going, we have the freedom to say that. You and I have the freedom right now on this radio program to give our opinion, our thoughts, to talk openly and freely because of the men and women who have gone before, who laid down their lives to keep all of us free.
And we forget to remember them.
We do, unfortunately.
And that is a tragedy.
Unfortunately.
Because even our forefathers, when they established the fact that we could be free, the fact we could have a democracy to where we don't have kings that tell everybody what to do, to where democracy was something that people at that point in time thought might work, but they didn't know, because it's always been kings and barons and dictators. Look at the countries in the world now that have those. And it's just a very fine line that we have in this country, but we don't have it.
You know, I wish that I had recorded the taxi cab driver in Washington, D.C. several years ago who had come to this country, and he talked with so much passion about the freedoms and the rights. And I'm riding in the cab with him, and he told me, I own my own home. He said, for my country, you couldn't own property. You couldn't own a home. And he talked glowingly about how he owned his own home and how his wife was going to college to become a nurse and how he was working 3 jobs. But he was so tickled for the freedoms. And he said, anybody that doesn't like the freedom that you have, tell them to come and talk to me.
True.
This guy had been under some oppression, and he was so pleased. And when I got out of that car, I thought, oh, my goodness, I've taken all this for granted.
And I guess the point I'm making to my friends out here, don't take it for granted. We could lose it in a heartbeat. And everything that those people on Memorial Day that died to preserve for us will be gone.
Yeah.
So think about it. Reflect deeply about how important it is that we have our democracy, that we have the ability to go vote, that we have the ability to choose our leaders and protect it. And for heaven's sakes, folks, vote.
And Gary, that we have our jury system.
Yes.
Yeah. You and I were talking before the program, and I don't care to share this with our friends, but I had a little thing going on with something, and I mentioned, well, send me the document. My friend is an attorney. I'd like to look at it. And all the problems went away real quickly when I mentioned the accountability of having to go before a jury. And it gives anybody in this country the power to go up against any big company, anybody. You've got rights.
Constitution and communist. In the constitutions of those countries, the people have far more rights than we have in our Constitution. The only thing that they don't have is they don't have a jury system to enforce it. It's enforced by the people in power. Therefore, they end up with no rights.
So however the king or the dictator interprets it, that's how it is.
Well, that's right. But here we have a jury. And that jury gets to determine whether or not a person's rights have been violated, whether or not They're entitled to compensation if they've been harmed. It's a jury. Amazing system. Works. It's under attack constantly because people that are in power don't want it. The people that have the money don't want the jury system. Just think about it. This is the only country in the world, my friends, that a person that has nothing,
yes,
nothing, can bring a large corporation to its knees with a jury. Now imagine that.
Isn't that amazing?
Now that's the power of our jury system. And it is amazing what a detriment it is to those companies and what they do. It's a deterrent.
So the big question is, if the jury system was gone, what would the big companies do to you?
Whatever they wanted to. And they still do a lot.
Oh, yeah.
You look at the opioid crisis and
sure.
what they did and things like that. But when they get caught, they can be held accountable. And it may keep other corporations from doing the same thing.
And the way they're held accountable is the jury system gets into their billfold. They get into their pocket. They make them pay for what they did wrong.
One other thing I want to say about the jury system.
Mm-hmm.
They say, well, these lawyers are doing this, these lawyers are doing that. Right? That's lawyers. We never do a verdict. We do not have the power to render a verdict as a lawyer. All a lawyer can ever do is report to a jury, which is the people that have the authority,
right,
to say this is what they did. Now, what are you going to do about it since you represent the community?
Here's the facts.
Here's the facts. And that's the only role a lawyer plays. We are a tattletale.
Mm-hmm.
Really and truly, verdicts come from 12 good, decent people in a community that want to do the right thing, that have no intention of going into the courtroom and doing the wrong thing. They're not paid enough to do the wrong thing.
And you know, when I first met you, I asked, well, Gary, have you ever had a jury that made the wrong decision that you disagreed with? And you stopped me real quick and you said, Keith, if the jury made a different decision, it's because the individual that went before them didn't give them the facts or show them the information. The jury always does the right thing. And when you said that, I was like, wow, that's an eye-opener.
I've heard lawyers say, I had a bad jury. Well, the client may have had a bad lawyer.
It is a burden, isn't it?
The jury makes their decision based on what they hear and their good old plain common sense. It's up to the lawyer to present the case. If he's got a bad case, he'll lose. It's that simple. And he should.
That simple.
Yeah.
And yet then when you see the propaganda that's out there of people talking about, runaway juries and all of these false verdicts that are coming out of just giving millions of dollars to people, it truly is insane to even say that, because 12 men and women are never going to come up with that.
Juries don't give money to anybody.
Yes.
All juries do is appraise damages.
Now that's a great statement. That's a great statement, because the language is different. Oh, they gave him X amount of dollars, or they gave her X amount of dollars. It's almost belittling when you hear somebody say that, isn't it?
Right. Every dime that a jury puts on a jury verdict generally is earned by blood, sweat, and tears,
and broken
pain,
bones,
broken bones, and things like that.
Yeah.
And it's just an appraisal of the damages is all a verdict is. The jury is asked to put a money value on what is the damages this person suffered. They're not asked, well, would you give him some money? That's not their role.
And then on top of that, there has to be some insurance somewhere. The individual had to pay for insurance, or the party that created the damage had to pay for insurance, or there's nothing to get.
Well, if there's a lawsuit, there's either a major corporation involved or there's insurance.
One or the other.
One or the other. That's simple.
And it still surprises people when you tell them if there's no insurance, there's nothing that can be done.
Well, we do it at least once a week. We tell people there's no insurance on the people that harmed you. You have $25,000 in uninsured motorists. Your medical bills are $100,000. We can't help you. You're ruined.
Isn't that sad? I mean, no wonder every time you do a television program, you start the program off with, please, please, buy your underinsurance if you can afford it.
Since we're talking on this system, there's a big push to say, well, a jury should never find damages for pain and suffering because it's not something that, it's not a monetary loss. Well, folks, listen up. Let me tell you why there needs to absolutely be a verdict, damages for pain and suffering. It's the only possible way in a trial that the person that's injured can even hope to break even. Let me give you an example of what I'm talking about. Let's say a person has medical bills of $100,000, and they've got lost wages of $50,000, and it goes to verdict, and the jury says, "Okay, we're going to find damages of $100,000 for medical. We're going to find damages for $50,000 for lost wages, but we're not going to put any money down for pain and suffering because we don't believe in it." Okay, what happens to the person? Number one, in order to take the lawsuit and bring it to trial, it's going to cost several $1,000s. You probably can't take a case to trial that has any significance for under $10,000 to $15,000. Medical negligence, you're probably talking $100,000 at the minimum. That has to come out of that $150,000 if the jury found the verdict. So that takes a person down to $135,000, right? Well, lawyers that take those cases always take it on a contingency. That contingency is generally 1/3. Okay, you take $50,000 off for attorney fees, you take $15,000 off for cost, you're down to, that leaves $85,000. So the person that went to trial, got a verdict of $150,000, ends up with $85,000, which won't even cover their medical expenses. Now, if you don't have a pain and suffering, a finding of pain and suffering, that's what happens to people.
Yeah. So when you said that it won't cover the medical expenses in a case like this with damages and injuries, there's going to be medical expenses of $100,000, maybe more. Your ambulance ride, a helicopter flight, emergency room. There's no way you're going to get out of there without that kind of money.
And somebody says, well, they had insurance. Well, guess what? The insurance company gets their money back first, called subrogation. So if a person's medical bills was paid by insurance, they have to give it to the insurance company if they recover it.
Boy, that's a great gig. You didn't lose anything. So out of this $150,000, I hope our friends are listening to this, after all the health is paid, the medical bills, and after you've paid your lawyer who had to go to court to get this, otherwise you wouldn't have got the verdict, you could end up owing $20,000, $30,000, $40,000.
Easily. And not only that, and that's why I'm saying, that's why it is critical that the law recognizes that a person should be compensated for their misery, mental anguish, agony that they go through when they're injured, because that money that the jury puts on that gives them a chance to break even.
Listen, you and I have a friend that went through that, and I asked him about telling the story on the program, and he said, I don't want people to know. I don't want people to know that it bankrupted me. I'll give you my records, and you can just call me John Doe, and you can tell everybody what happened. 6 months in a wheelchair, couldn't work, medical bills way over $100,000, bankruptcy. But the guy said, I'm embarrassed. All this happened to me. I walk with a limp. I'm hurt for the rest of my life, and it broke me. Those are the cases that people don't hear about.
That's right, and there's a lot of those. I bet you money that there's someone listening to this program right now that's had that happen to them.
Now, let's talk pain and suffering now. What kind of toll has this individual taken? Because the loss of health, the loss of finances, demoralized everything. I mean, how can you not put money on that?
In valuing a case, pain and suffering should always be a minimum of 3 times the specials. Specials being medical bills and things of that nature. Then the person can come out with something from it happening to them. That's just my take on it.
Wow.
For whatever it's worth. Anyhow, now, John C. Maxwell, we've talked about him on the TV and Maxwell's Daily Reader. Oh, John Maxwell.
He's a pretty smart guy.
I happened to pick his book up a while ago and look at it, and I saw this section on page 269 that says, if your friends aren't friends, make new friends. And this is what he has to say about it. I'm going to read you. If people close to you are dragging you down, then it may be time to make some changes. Speaker Joe Larson remarked, my friends didn't believe that I could become a successful speaker, so I did something about it. I went out and found me some new friends. When you really think about it, the things that matter most in life are the relationships we develop. Remember, number 1, you may build a beautiful home, but eventually it will crumble. 2, you may develop a fine career, but one day it will be over. 3, you may have a great sum of money, but you can't take it with you. 4, you may be in superb health today, but in time it will decline. 5, you may take pride in your accomplishments, but someone will always do better than you. 6, discouraged? Don't be. For the one thing that really matters and lasts forever is your friendships. I just thought I'd end it with that.
That is good. That is good, isn't it?
Yeah, I just think that's interesting.
It puts in perspective what the true value is.
And he has one other sentence or two that he says about that. Life is too long to spend it with people who pull you in the wrong direction, and it is too short not to invest in others. Your relationships will define you, and they will influence your talent one way or the other. Choose wisely.
Wow.
And that's
what
I have to say about that.
I always like it when you pull something out like that to read, because I always think that there's one person that's listening that message goes to, that says, here I am working, pushing, struggling, and the people around me are saying, you don't deserve it, you'll never get it, it's not going to happen, and he just put it in perfect form.
And as I've said many times on this show, and I'll say it again, each and every one of you is unique.
Are we not finding that out?
You bring something special to the table.
Are we not finding that out right now?
Yeah.
I've been looking ever since this pandemic came on. You said, Keith, keep looking. Out of this horrible, horrible event, there's going to be some good things that happen. And some good things are going to come out of this in the end. And the one thing that I'm starting to see is an appreciation of each other. I think I see more and more people being appreciative of those around them.
People risking their lives to get to go hang out together. Think about that. How bad we need each other.
Yes.
So, my friends.
Not just over Zoom.
That's right. Yeah, Zoom. It's a wonderful life. Enjoy it and choose wisely.
You may have to break that news to some of your friends. Just like he said, you may have to say, you're not lifting me up, you're pulling me down, so I'm going to have to go find some new friends.
You don't have to say anything to them, just get out.
And Gary, what gets me about that is it is contagious, isn't it? You and I have talked before about people walking into a room where people are laughing, and they start laughing immediately, but they'll go, what's so funny? But they started laughing before they even knew the joke. It is contagious that happiness and positivity will come to you, and you will pick it up if you're around those people that have it.
Always. always.
Well, my friend, there's light at the end of the tunnel.
Well, I just hope that my friends understand that you're as important as anyone else. And please don't think you're more important than anyone else. But you are as important as anyone else.
Yeah. When you started off this program talking about Memorial Day, I thought about the little saying that you used to tell us on the radio, that our lives are like the chessboard, the chess game. And when the game is over, the king and the pawn go in the same box.
Sure.
So that puts it all in perspective. It is going to be a Memorial Day weekend. It is a weekend to be safe, to have your seatbelt on, to obey all of the rules on the road, especially if you've got that cell phone in your hand. Don't be texting or talking on it.
Now, you don't have to wear your seatbelt in the house.
I don't know. Sometimes on the couch, the conversation gets a little rocky with the wife. I might keep mine on just in case.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So thank you, my friend. You can catch Gary's television show Tuesday nights, 7 o'clock on WYMT, your CBS affiliate, a late-night replay in Central Kentucky on your CBS affiliate, WKYT. And for you people that start early in the morning, on Mondays, you can catch us on your Fox affiliate in Central Kentucky. And then Friday, we'll get you ready for your weekend, early at 6:30 a.m. If you need to get in touch with Gary, it's GaryCJohnson.com. I hope we find good friends, all of us, and cherish the ones we have. That was a good story.
Absolutely.
On behalf of Gary C. Johnson, I'm Keith Casebolt. Thank you so much for giving us this time to spend with us. As always, Gary and I look forward to seeing you again next week, right here at this same time.